What questions do you have?
Sure, Corde.
And by the way, if you have questions, please come off mute when you ask them.
All right. Corde, first of all, thank you very much for this insight.
Of course.
It's a lot of practical insight that you offer. One thing that I'm curious about, you touched slightly upon having this unified knowledge management system, right? Not having 2 or 3.
Correct.
But some of the organizations are now moving toward this enterprise service management transformation efforts. What that means is it's not IT just focusing on knowledge-centered support or knowledge management, but also the other departments, say customer relationship or finance, HR, everyone. So in that case, if we have to restrict, in your case, you have ServiceNow, so you're covered a little bit on the enterprise service management. What have you seen happening there? Say the knowledge managers at an enterprise level, and then they want to follow a different tool, but the service management tool has its own knowledge base.
Yeah, and where I've been challenged with this one, I think it's a terrific question, and I candidly don't have a specific technical answer to it. What I know from our attempts was that we could not identify a way, and it doesn't mean it can't be done. We could not identify a way to federate all knowledge and then go to one place and search for it. And so we know we can do that with database. We know we can do that with data. There might be tools that do it. I'm just not aware of it. So to your point, that was my greatest concern. We were selfish in what we were doing here, quite frankly, that we know we had to get IT working. And as I mentioned, there was parallel projects looking at it. But my argument with them each time is you're going to go to one place, or you're going to have to continue to do what we're doing today, go to 6 different places trying to find something. Where's your source of truth? Go ahead, Don.
I've seen this too, Corde. Of course, we had our challenges working together on ServiceNow, but I've also seen it done in Salesforce. And I think the key for an enterprise knowledge management system is making sure that your service desk function, you have a single place to go to request or report a problem, request service or report a problem, and make sure your service catalog supports the segmentation of duties. So ServiceNow, if you have multiple databases covering HR and payroll and IT, for example, it's still one place to go. It's just multiple databases. It looks as one.
No, I think part of Naveen's question, Don, I hear what you're saying is similar to that idea that they want to also have information in your intranet. And we know that we use Jive over in Palo Alto Networks. We know that we couldn't find a way to, in real time or actively, search in a search window on Jive and find what's in ServiceNow unless we made specific linkage to it. And that's not what we want to do. It's very labor intensive, and you have to manage them, and then vice versa. We were not able to identify, and it doesn't mean it can't be done, we just didn't find one. Maybe somebody on the call has, but the same thing, if it's in SharePoint, it's in Jive or whatever your intranet is, it's in ServiceNow, and it's also over in Jira. I just don't think that's an effective way to do it. So I'm not married to the idea that it has to be in ServiceNow, for example, which wasn't the most robust knowledge management system, but my imperative was to have it available in ticketing. My imperative was to have it available in the self-service portal. So if from our portal we could search all of them, that's nirvana for me.
And that's a logic we used. We've used it a couple of different times in a couple of different knowledge management implementations.
Yeah.
And having one place to go for the information, for consistent information, that is key. So the portal with a service catalog behind it of, here's business-oriented services and the knowledge supporting that, that's karma.
And that should be the imperative of the organization, is to find information more than it's my domain. But to have that level of vision in any corporation, it's a challenge. We all know.
So I have
Naveen, I didn't give you an answer. I'm sorry, buddy. It's because I don't think there is a good one, but
yeah, I've done this quite a few times, and then I've seen different ways of it being done, where there's a manual step involved where if an article, say IT is writing something, and if it's a service provider type of company, I assume Palo Alto falls under that category, given that we are using Palo Alto Networks as an example here.
Good for you.
So say if you have this customer focus team, which is also technical, using some of these articles, and if they want to push it to the customers as a self-service item, at that point, there are two different technologies that are being used. One is your in-house IT service management system. The other one is the CRM system. So we had to manually find out a way to do it. And it was a manual step of exporting the article, then having a customer-focused subject matter expert take a look at it for quality, where some information cannot be divulged to the customers. Then it goes in as a self-service item in the CRM system.
Yeah, that might be one of the use cases, Naveen, where I actually could agree with something that's customer facing is managed different, that we've, for lack of the better term, partition it away from internal, external, because we all know the nuances of what the customer can see versus what, so a lot of the articles I write, it's relatively informal. I want to get the information out. What goes out to the customer, we have to consider all the legality things. And so I could see how you would move it from your internal repository over to your Salesforce, whatever your CRM system is, whatever, and then you push it out. But it's never easy, guys. That's what I was saying, and that's why I know Ivan was doing it, because he just wanted to torture me. The scope is really hard to manage. It's not trivial. It's important, but a company really has to have that type of vision, or it has to be in your overall business plan, that you have to have that. In the case you use, Naveen, so you can get external customers' data, blah, blah, blah.
So Corde, I have a question.
Prasanna here, sorry.
Yeah, Prasanna, go ahead.
Yeah, Corde, I think one of the very important aspects that you highlighted was the knowledge manager being there.
Yep.
Ensure that the information is up to date to, because information is as old as in the last minute, right?
Yeah.
So it keeps changing. I think, in the companies where the processes are getting introduced, right, and the new products are getting introduced, or, the way things that needs to be done, in order to keep the knowledge management up to date is very essential here. Without the one single ownership of that knowledge, it would be very, very hard to keep up to that level.
Yeah, I think that was an important point. I'm kind of whipping through these slides again, trying to remember if I put some in there. What Prasanna mentioned, I hope everyone caught that. Having an expiration or a review date is beyond the best practice. I remember doing that as part of the ISO 9000 certifications when I was at Intel, that documentation had to be reviewed, and the purpose of it was to keep it current and relevant. And what Prasanna's pointing out is how easy it is for information to get stale or to be wrong, and I kind of anecdotally mentioned it. So that's a great point, Prasanna. The default in our system when Don and I took it over was, I think, like 2020. And the article was written in 2014, so 6 years and you're never going to review it? I don't think so. So great point. Very good point. Radeep, did you have something, sir?
Yeah, so Corde, I also have a question regarding, when you start searching the knowledge, one of the key challenges that you get so much of information, and you mentioned that, and I think tagging is important, taxonomy is important.
Yes.
So, I have seen where people keep putting knowledge, and then the moment you search, it becomes, you get, 100 articles returned, and you don't know which one is the relevant one.
Yeah.
So have you seen any Google kind of a search kind of a mechanism in your experience where people are using that technology?
No, unfortunately, most of my experience was with the older technologies. The one where we have the most robust is in an older CA system, Hardeep. So I think what you're bringing up is a very important point. And I would add that to the strategy of understanding and setting some level of governance around the tagging, because the issue I find also when you have to go to the intranet and there was no structure behind it, or any knowledge base that wasn't set up well, is when you search for a word and you get 100 articles and you don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you're leading us to is that if you were to set up some level of structure behind your taxonomy of your tags and the use of that, I think that might be a more efficient way of doing it. But I don't know if there's technologies that help us do that or filter it better with more precise search. Does anyone have information?
Yeah, there's process. Process helped it for us. At Sun Microsystems, 95% of our service delivery was through employee self-service, and it started with that knowledge. So what would happen is you would first look at the database and see if there was anything that could answer the question. And based on how the customer was asking, you would update the meta tags if it already existed and improve the knowledge to answer their specific question. So your meta tags would evolve based on help desk and customer inquiry and use.
Yeah, I worry about the crossing of meta tags that don't have the same meaning. For lack of a good example, problem and problem. That it's how we think of it in ITIL terms of a problem. There's no root cause analysis, or what root cause analysis means, those sort of things. And we put that term in, but what we really meant was how to fix something. Or I can't come up with a good analogy, but I think if you make it difficult to find the information you're looking for, it goes back to that rhetorical question that it might be less valuable than having nothing at all.
Yeah. So Corde, on that, sorry to interrupt, on that,
of course.
How important are the tools for knowledge management? Because, as we are discussing, the knowledge can come from anywhere, and that should be used across all the processes, right? Whatever I'm documenting for incident would be applicable for the change management level, right? So do you think so? And then if I don't have access to the information, there's no point in documenting all across, right? So how important are the tools for knowledge management? I mean, I almost starting to think that tools are, if not the most, or at least the first among equals of all the, we're talking about the processes, we're talking about how critical it is to clean up, So basically, what are your thoughts on having an effective tool?
I think that's paramount. But the reason I make that less of a priority is that, and it's not just because I do believe in process before tool, is that if you don't have an effective process and somebody to maintain and manage it, then we go back to that step of whatever's in your electronic repository isn't as effective or as useful or as relevant as you would need it to be. So I passionately believe we need the technologies these days to give us the level of scale and speed that we need in the way we have to operate today. It's just, everything's so much faster than it was 20 years ago. Well, that's a given. We all get that. But we don't realize that it's not necessarily the technology that's enabled us to do more. It's those of us that have programmed it and set it up and manage it, maintain it, that makes it that much better. And so, the whole Amazon thing is one of the examples I always get. Anywhere we've been, all of us on this call, when you start relating release management, we need to be able to release just like Amazon. We have to be able to do the same thing that Facebook does, just continuous delivery. Okay, well, how much did it cost to do that, and how much resource, people, and time did it take to do that, not just throwing money at it? So the technology is definitely a part of that, but it's all the other pieces to get there. And so I I can't imagine doing knowledge management anymore, or incident management, or change management. I refuse to do change management back. Remember the olden? Oh, you guys are too young. And Ivan will remember the olden days where you'd have to have a piece of paper, and that's your change order. Come on, Ivan, admit it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't go back. I would never do that. I will never go to a company and they say, well, that's how we do it. No, see ya. So it's the same thing, though. I need the information to be available in the ticketing system. So I think it's an extraordinarily astute question, is that the technology is paramount. In fact, with you can buy pieces of your knowledge base, right answers, or you add in all your Oracle and your Red Hat and your other types of all their knowledge. You add it to your pieces. That's going to make you so much more efficient and effective. But there's a cost, and you got to maintain it. And you can set it up to work automatically, but you work in the government, you can't just download anything you want. So it's going to take a human. So it's a trifecta. It really is to have information, people, process, technology, and information.
Yeah, sorry, taking it seriously.
No, I can't.
No.
All right, go ahead. I'll try.
With Agile Development and DevOps, and not continuous but frequent delivery, we are really in the situation we have to change the knowledge articles. The knowledge management should have a much faster pace.
Yeah.
How can we do that? What do you think about that?
I think that's a terrific question, and this is what I've been thinking about in that context. All of you think back to the first time you started working with Agile groups. Think about the first time you started in 10 years ago when they said, we're going to start doing this Agile and Scrums, and stuff just starts showing up in production. And I'm an operations guy, have been since I first started doing IT 2 years ago. All right, well, maybe more than that. And the thing I remember was that it wasn't getting the operational teams. The documentation, the run books, how to support it, who to call, all that stuff, because they're moving so fast. The integration is so efficient in a lot of ways, but what's missed, in Corde's opinion, this is just Corde's opinion, with the Agile development and the continuous delivery, is the documentation that ops teams need. So to try to answer your question, I think even if we were to do it KCS-like, that allowing these development teams to not have to go through the arduous, here's all the documentation, here's your release notes, boom, big pile of paper, or in this case, it's a Word doc or whatever, allow them to build the run book articles, for the lack of a better term, the information they need electronically. We bucket that under a certain category for release 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have what we need, and it does support that because they can make them quicker. They make it less bureaucratic to get the information we need so that we can then start the next cycle. I don't know if that works for everybody in the call, but that's my first thought. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I know that's a constraint for continuous delivery or Agile in general, that us ops folks still need basic run maintenance, major incident support stuff, or we're toast. Lack of a better word.
Yeah. So, Ivan, I think I'm in a phase where I'm doing the same thing. I'm wearing two hats, where I'm doing development and I'm also running managing the kind of an operational stuff. I think one of the ways nowadays in DevOps model that if you really follow the DevOps model, you can do that is, for example, when developer is writing his code, he has to write the documentation there in the code itself.
Yeah.
If he's not writing the documentation, the code, that code will not go through the release cycle.
Yeah.
And what you can do then is, for example, lots of companies are doing that right now. Lots of like Airbnbs and these large DevOps companies. You can have software. You should go and build the API documentation from the code itself as a part of the development and release.
Yeah.
You can document all those things.
Yep.
I think those are, but again, to go back to that point of part, that you need to have an investment upfront. You need to put investment somewhere. Either you do it at the part of development, or you do it part of the later on. You need to have the development, that investment.
And that becomes part of your culture of how you operate, though.
Right.
That is something that evolves over time because people are leading that.
Right.
That you have a process for it. It's far trimmed down and slimmed.
This is a really good, this has been a,
Go ahead, Don.
this has been a really good discussion. I want to really be conscious of everybody's time because it is the top of the hour. So I wanted to really hand this, give this the opportunity to really thank you, Corde. This has been a great session, and I really appreciate everybody's active engagement. Ivan, I wanted to also turn this over to you to see if we had any other wrap-up items to discuss as well. Sir.
Thanks, Don. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, not really. Also, I want to thank you, Corde. This was a very good presentation, very practical. I love it.
Thank you.
Not at 50,000 feet level. It was really about what to do and how to do that. And this is what we need. And I think this is a good example for the future presenters in this forum to go to the day-by-day stuff. This is what we need. This is what we can use tomorrow in our own field, or at least it will be a bad example I want to avoid in any way, right? So, okay, so thank you again, and thank you guys for the participation. It's really great. We will continue.
It was a pleasure, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Corde.
Thanks, Corde.
See you all soon, I hope. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.